The greatest chains were never forged. They were poured. No guards, no locks, just a cup, handed to you by a world that calls decay celebration. Alcohol isn't a drink. It's permission. Permission to lower your guard, silence your edge, and trade clarity for comfort. A man who drinks doesn't rebel against the system. He reinforces it. Predators don't need armies when the prey volunteers its weakness. They don't need prisons when the crowd builds their own and sings while the gates close. Tyrants don't fear drunks. They budget for them. Because nothing stabilizes power like self-inflicted decay. So here's the truth. Every sip is an oath of surrender. Every toast, a rehearsal for obedience. Some prisons cost nations to build. This one costs only a bottle. You cannot be conquered by what you do not consume. Strength is not talent. It's trained refusal. Every empire, every dynasty, every man who ever held command learned the art of saying no long before they learned how to win. But alcohol trains the opposite. It teaches surrender disguised as leisure. It sells the illusion that relief is progress. You've earned this, it whispers, like a salesman of weakness. And the first victory alcohol wins is not over your body. It's over your psychology. The moment you believe you deserve to escape, you stop evolving. Tonight's relief becomes tomorrow's regret, and regret becomes routine until it solidifies into identity. You begin to mistake comfort for safety, stillness for peace, and indulgence for reward. The world will tell you that moderation is balance, but moderation, when applied to poison, is simply controlled decay. The Machiavellian mind knows this. Every act of indulgence trains the body to obey impulse, and every obedience weakens the throne of the self. Power does not vanish overnight. You don't lose it in a single mistake. You lease it. Each sip rents out a piece of your vigilance, your timing, your restraint, and while you sleep, your edge dulls quietly. The hunter becomes slower, softer, safer, exactly how the system wants him. A sober man's instincts stay sharp because he never bargains with his weakness. He sees the trap and studies it. He learns the geometry of temptation. And in doing so, he builds something alcohol destroys completely: momentum. The drinker, on the other hand, learns to pause every time discomfort knocks. His edge rusts under the illusion of self-care. He begins to chase numbness and call it relaxation. But the truth is simpler. Every time you reach for the bottle, you train your mind to retreat. Refusal, not indulgence, is the muscle that builds dominance. And those who train refusal become untouchable, because they've mastered the one form of power the world can't sell: self-command. You don't lose power in a night. You lease it. Taverns outlast prisons for one reason: compliance looks like fun. No bars, no guards, just music, laughter, and shared surrender. The drunk man calls it connection. The ruler calls it control. Alcohol promises belonging but delivers predictability. Power studies patterns, and intoxication creates them. The same faces, the same places, the same hour, the same excuses. What begins as leisure becomes ritual. A ritual that tells the world exactly when you're weakest. Every drink is a schedule. Every toast, a confession. And the more you drink, the easier you are to read. A man who reveals his habits writes the blueprint for his own manipulation. The enemy doesn't need to interrogate him. He'll volunteer the truth between laughs. Social bonding becomes data extraction. The table is no longer fellowship, it's surveillance disguised as celebration. Secrets slip, ambitions leak, restraint dissolves. The clever ones take note, quietly. Culture calls this balance. The Machiavellian calls it laundering weakness until it looks like personality. The ritual of just one drink is the ritual of permission. Each glass justifies the next. Each hangover earns another round of self-forgiveness. And slowly, what was once discomfort becomes identity. The crowd won't punish your decline. They'll applaud it if it makes them comfortable. Your discipline reminds them of what they've lost, and so they rename your strength as arrogance, your clarity as coldness, your restraint as fear. But watch them closely. They'll hand you a glass not to include you, but to dilute you. They need your surrender to validate their own. Every toast is a collective pact. Let's fall together so no one feels the shame of standing tall. That's why celebration is the perfect camouflage for decay. It doesn't look like destruction. It looks like belonging. Weakness marketed as culture is the perfect trap. Alcohol doesn't just dull the senses, it dismantles the architecture of power. Strategy lives or dies by 3 pillars: perception, memory, and timing. Alcohol quietly erodes all 3. First, perception. The sober man walks into a room and sees everything: the flicker of envy, the hesitation before a lie, the subtle alliance forming across the table. The drunk man sees none of it. His confidence rises as his awareness dies. What he calls relaxation is really blindness, and in the game of power, blindness is blood in the water. Then comes memory. Strategy depends on continuity, the ability to connect yesterday's whisper to tomorrow's betrayal. Alcohol breaks that thread. Each night becomes isolated, each insight forgotten. You can't build compound intelligence if your memory resets to 0 every weekend. The sober mind compounds knowledge. The drunk mind starts over, endlessly. Finally, timing, the invisible heartbeat of power. Alcohol destroys it. You speak too soon or too late. You laugh when silence would have commanded the room. You misread the pause, miss the shift, ruin the rhythm. A man who loses timing loses leverage. Because in power, it's not what you say, it's when you say it. Machiavelli wrote that every ruler must control appearance. Power is theater. Perception is the stage. Alcohol turns the performance into farce. The slurred joke, the reckless confession, the unnecessary boast, they're all bloopers that your rivals never forget. They will laugh with you in the moment, then use your laughter against you later. Every great strategist guards his myth, his composure, his mystique, his unpredictability. Alcohol shatters that myth. It makes the mysterious transparent, the controlled careless, the feared familiar, and transparency is fatal in a world ruled by perception. The sober man moves like a ghost, present but unreadable. The drunk man glows like a signal flare exposing every weakness. Power is not lost through defeat, but through exposure. And alcohol is the most efficient form of self-exposure ever invented. So while others toast to relaxation, remember, they are not relaxing. They are rehearsing their own downfall. Transparency is fatal in a world ruled by perception. Alcohol is not simply poison for the body, it's debt for the mind. Every sip is a loan against your future power with interest. Think of time as currency. The sober man invests it. The drinker spends it. One compounds mastery. The other compounds decay. Every night blurred by alcohol is not a single loss. It's an entire sequence of opportunities forfeited. Sharpness tomorrow, momentum next week, credibility next month. This is how erosion works. Not in collapses, but in micro-withdrawals. The world doesn't need to destroy powerful men. It only needs to make them tired. Alcohol does this quietly. It drains focus without pain, ambition without alarm. You wake up not ruined, but reduced. Each drink dulls the edge that separates leaders from followers. The sober mind invests discomfort for dividends and dominance. It endures pain now to gain control later. The drunk mind sells its strength for immediate comfort, then spends the next day buying back fragments of focus. The greatest deception is that these small nights don't matter, but power is a game of accumulation. Every wasted evening compounds into a habit of surrender. The sharp become dull, not through defeat, but through the slow corrosion of consistency. A man who drinks to unwind mortgages his will, the very foundation of command. What begins as stress relief becomes dependency, and dependency is the enemy's dream. You can't be enslaved if you refuse pleasure that weakens you. But the man who drinks is already owned, by habit, by fatigue, by the need for relief. While he blurs, others build. While he forgets, others calculate. While he sleeps, others scheme. Power always transfers from the distracted to the disciplined. In Machiavellian terms, alcohol is time arbitrage. The sober gain while the drunk delay, and delay is death in slow motion. Talent stalls, purpose drifts, myth collapses, not from catastrophe but from corrosion. The drinker calls it balance. History calls it decline. Every empire that fell began with nights that didn't matter. Every sip is a loan against your future power, with interest. Power is sustained by distance. The ruler's advantage is not always strength, it's unreadability. A man who can be predicted can be priced. A man who can be reached can be replaced. Alcohol destroys both. Men of power cultivate aura, measured silence, deliberate gestures, selective revelation. Their unpredictability is armor. But the moment you drink, the mask slips. You become reachable, decipherable. Your patterns emerge when you relax, when you talk too much, when you need approval. In the sober light, these are small cracks. Under intoxication, they become entry points. Every vice you display in public is a leash you hand to the observer. The more visible your indulgence, the easier it becomes to pull. They will not need to confront you. They will only need to wait for the next celebration, the next drink, the next moment you choose comfort over control. Betrayals rarely begin in chambers of power. They begin in bars. Not because men plan treachery there, but because boundaries dissolve faster than loyalties do. The tongue loosens before the conscience catches up. You may think you're speaking freely. In truth, you're briefing your enemy. Machiavelli would call this operational suicide. A ruler must be opaque. His emotions, appetites, and impulses must remain unseen. For the moment the court can predict your mood, they can manage you. The moment they know your pattern, they can prepare for it. The man who needs drink to feel free has already surrendered the illusion of mystery. True strength is in concealment. The sober man can sit among chaos and reveal nothing. His restraint unnerves the weak. They mistake silence for arrogance when it's actually strategy. He decides when to speak, when to reveal, when to vanish. If you must use alcohol, never let it use you. And better still, replace it. Replace it with rituals that sharpen, not dull. Cold water, solitude, discipline. Practice becomes your intoxication. Precision becomes your pleasure. For every man's leash is hidden inside his indulgence. Show me a man's indulgence, and I'll show you where to press. Fear is not the enemy. It's the messenger. Every instinct, every tremor before a decision. These are signals, not weaknesses. The sober man listens, the drunk man mutes. Alcohol's greatest lie is that it gives confidence, but what it gives is counterfeit. Loud, reckless, hollow. It replaces awareness with impulse, replaces focus with noise. True courage isn't loud. It's calibrated. It's the stillness before the strike, not the shout before the fall. A general who drinks to relax before battle is not brave. He's blind. He silences the very system designed to keep him alive. Fear marks terrain. It shows where danger hides, where opportunity lives, where caution is strength. When you drink, you cut the wire between instinct and intellect. You walk into traps smiling. The strategist understands fear is data. It sharpens the senses, quickens the pulse, awakens precision. The sober man doesn't escape fear. He studies it. He feels the rhythm of his heartbeat and learns from it. He reads tension in the room like wind before a storm. His fear becomes focus. His anxiety becomes alignment. Alcohol destroys that calibration. It dulls the edges of perception until nothing feels urgent, nothing feels real. It teaches you to ignore signals, to mistake calmness for safety. But in power, calmness is earned, not consumed. To master fear is not to erase it, it's to interpret it. You must learn to breathe through it, not drown it. Replace sedation with drills of control. Silence, breath, observation. Sit in stillness until discomfort becomes familiar. Train your body to stay alert when others collapse. The sober man doesn't need a drink to steady his nerves. His nerves are already his weapon. because bravery without signal is suicide. Power is not measured by what you can take. It's measured by what you can refuse. Machiavelli would call sobriety the statecraft of the self. You are both ruler and ruled, your instincts the subjects, your will the throne. But alcohol inverts this order. Pleasure commands, purpose obeys. The crown slips not in a single rebellion, but through small permissions, one yes at a time. Every act of refusal, however, restores dominion. It's not repression, it's command. The weak man escapes discomfort. The sovereign uses it. He understands that temptation is not a test of morality, but of hierarchy. Who gives the orders inside your own mind? The sober man builds what can be called the refusal loop. Temptation appears. He pauses. He recalls principle. He acts by choice, not craving. Each act compounds into identity. That loop is where sovereignty is forged, not in grand victories but in private denials. Each no becomes a brick in the fortress of presence, the silent authority that needs no performance. The world feels it. Rooms quiet around it. People sense control they cannot imitate because it was earned, not borrowed. This is why the disciplined are feared and mocked in equal measure. Their restraint exposes others' dependency. When you say no to what soothes you, you force others to see what enslaves them. Their laughter is camouflage for discomfort. Their criticism is confession. They are not angry at your choice. They are exposed by it. Understand this. Rebellion has changed its form. It no longer looks like defiance against rulers. It looks like refusal of weakness. To say no to alcohol, distraction, indulgence is to declare independence from a culture that feeds on your compliance. Every system, political, economic, social, profits from the man who cannot say no. His impulses are predictable. His silence can be bought. His rebellion is loud but brief. But the sober man, his restraint cannot be taxed, sold, or seduced. To rule others is skill. To rule yourself is sovereignty. And the moment you master refusal, you no longer need validation, applause, or permission. Because the truth is simple and absolute. Rule yourself, or be ruled by what soothes you. Sobriety is not withdrawal, it's weaponization. Clarity, when trained, becomes aggression refined. The sober man doesn't retreat from pleasure. He replaces it with precision. His rituals sharpen what others sedate. The black hour. Each night, a single hour of silence. No screens, no sound, no audience. Sit with your thoughts like a commander reviewing a battlefield. Audit your motives, your choices, your tells. What made you reactive today? What weakened your edge? This ritual reclaims the signal alcohol dulls, awareness of self as both strategist and subject. Cold start. Begin mornings with cold exposure and deliberate breath. The purpose isn't pain, it's reprogramming. You're training your mind to obey command over comfort. Each breath under cold water is a statement. I decide what governs me. The sober edge begins with that discipline, the ability to override the body's cry for ease. The war log. Record micro-wins of refusal. Each time you decline distraction, indulgence, or emotional drift, write it down. Over weeks, the record becomes myth. You begin to see patterns of self-command forming, identity compounding into certainty. The drunk man forgets his nights. The disciplined man remembers his victories. The alliance filter. Choose your circle by context, not charisma. Meet in sober settings. Share thought, not intoxication. Watch how people act when no performance is available. True allies don't need lubrication to reveal clarity. Their sharpness affirms yours. Surround yourself with those who reward signal, not celebration. Mythcraft. Guard your mystery. Every great operator has a myth, a veil between inner process and public presence. Never leak your private rituals, your triggers, your recovery methods. What others cannot read, they cannot predict. Let your composure remain sacred. These systems replace sedation with structure, numbness with control. You are no longer escaping the world. You are reading it. Every glance, hesitation, motive, and silence. Sobriety becomes your intelligence network, because clarity isn't passive, it hunts. It stalks patterns, seizes timing, and eliminates hesitation. And once mastered, it turns every moment of restraint into an act of offense. The sober man doesn't just stay awake, he advances while others sleep. This was never about morality. It was about method. The sober man doesn't reject pleasure, he reclaims command. Statues aren't built for those who escaped reality. They're built for those who faced it clean, unclouded, unbent. Sobriety is rebellion disguised as silence. It turns time into an ally, focus into currency, and presence into gravity. The world runs on distraction. Every empire of control depends on men too numb to notice the walls closing in. But when you see clearly, you become unprofitable to the system and invaluable to yourself. A sober mind cannot be bought, bribed, or bent. It reads the game faster, moves slower, and acts when others react. That's why they call clarity boring, because it can't be sold. The man who feels everything but obeys nothing is dangerous. His calm exposes the chaos around him. His restraint unmasks the world's addiction to escape. Your clarity will not only save you, it will become your inheritance. Your bloodline won't inherit your habits. It will inherit your discipline. The system profits from your numbness. Your family profits from your command. Remember this, the world cannot move the man who no longer moves for pleasure. So here's the test. When the crowd lifts its glass, will you lift your will? When comfort calls, will you answer with command? If you understand, if you've seen through the illusion, leave it below. I choose clarity, not as rebellion, as remembrance.